you cannot deny the start of the season for 2311 Racing and Tyler Reddick. I mean, they've got as many wins together as I have fingers. And by the way, the number in the title of the show. Unbelievable. Hey there, race fans. It's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. Kansas Speedway, the mile-and-a-half track in the heartland where it's fast, it's fun, and the crowd always shows up because they know they're going to get a good race. This mile-and-a-half track with this car puts on a great show as we've seen the last couple of years. It possibly may be the best mile-and-a-half track that we go to. Well, yesterday, it was a relatively calm day with some good side-by-side action, but some spread-out racing. But in the very end, we got an overtime finish where one man came out on top for his 5th win of the season. Let's talk about all that happened yesterday at Kansas. Number 1, 5 for Reddick. Tyler Reddick gets his 5th win of 2026, winning yesterday's Advent Health 400 at Kansas Speedway, beating out Kyle Larson, Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin, and Bubba Wallace for the victory. Unbelievable. 5 wins! 5 wins to start the season. I haven't seen a start like this since I can remember, probably since, I don't know, Jimmy Johnson in the early 2000s. This kid has been kicking butt all year long. Unbelievable job. Reddick started yesterday's race on the pole, and at the beginning of the race, he had a nice battle with his car owner and Denny Hamlin up at the front of the field. In a moment, those two actually touched together after the first lap when they were battling side by side for the lead. Reddick got the lead after Hamlin led lap 1. Then Hamlin took the lead back and started to drive away. Reddick maintained his track position for the most part for a lot of that race inside the top 5. Never really gained a whole lot on Denny Hamlin in that first stage, but once again was able to hold his track position. Then we get into stage number 2. He lost a couple of spots on the restart when the Hendrick cars of Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott ganged up on him and Hamlin, passing them both. But then as the long runs came in and you saw the strength of the Toyotas yesterday, Reddick was able to get back by Hamlin and Elliott and try to run down the 5 of Larson. But that time, Larson was kind of off to the races as far as stage 2 is concerned. Then we had a lot of green flag pit stops in the middle of the stage, and Reddick actually had a slow stop coming onto pit road, and it had a 12-second stop that dropped him from 2nd back to 5th. And the reason why that happened was about a couple laps prior to his pit stop, he actually hit the wall a little bit, and the team had to work on the right side so they could make it aerodynamically proper for him to carry on and still be competitive. They made the adjustment, and he was able to get back up there and got back to finishing 3rd in the stage. And we get into the final stage. He restarted inside the top 5. Denny Hamlin, though, at the point, took off for the most part, and then when we had our final round of green flag pit stops, Reddick and the 45 team got a good stop where they were actually able to come in a little bit later than Denny Hamlin, and they were able to use the fresher rubber to make a charge on the 11 car towards the end of the race. He kept gaining and gaining and gaining, and those last 10 laps, Reddick and Hamlin, the battle for the lead was absolutely amazing, seeing those two go at it when they had older tires at the time, especially after they had a lot of laps on him. Reddick was able to get by Hamlin for the lead, and it looked like maybe he was going to drive off, but Hamlin did not let Reddick out of his sights. He kept him tight, and then towards the near end of the race, Tyler Reddick screamed, "I'm out of fuel," and I was hitting the wall in turn 4, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me! So he lost the lead. Denny Hamlin takes it. It looks like he's about to go and win the race until caution came out for the first major incident of the day, because we had 2 cautions prior and they were the stage breaks. Caution happened in turn 4 just as the leaders were coming to take the white flag as Cody Ware spun. And I know a lot of you are saying, oh, Cody Ware caused a caution. Shocker. Well, it sounded like he had a tire go down, just for FYI. So that brought decision making into the crew chiefs to decide what to do with the drivers. Everybody came onto pit road. Reddick's team took 2 tires. Actually, the top 10 took 2 tires. 11th on back all took 4 tires. So Reddick restarted on the outside lane, and on the restart, all of a sudden, Reddick was able to go a little bit high on the outside of Hamlin, who was getting put in the middle by the 5 car Kyle Larson, had a great restart, where Reddick was trying to get up there towards the 5 car, but he was in between Hamlin and Christopher Bell, and as Bell had a run to the outside, Hamlin kind of pushed up the track a little bit, which happened a couple times yesterday to guys. He got up Reddick a little high, and Reddick got into Christopher Bell, and that sent Bell into the wall, breaking a toe link and dropping him from a top 5 all the way back to 20th spot. But Reddick was able to get the run through 3 and 4, past the 11 car, and then set his sights on the 5 car, and he homed in on him like crazy that last lap. And going into 1 and 2, got the run, was able to make the pass on the 5 car and get side by side with him as they headed down the backstretch. And then on the backstretch into turn 3, Reddick cleared the 5 car, cleared him through 3 and 4, and took it all the way home to the checkered flag to get his 5th win of the season. It's crazy the start of the year that Tyler Reddick and 2311 Racing are having right now. And I don't want to hear, it's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged. It is not rigged. These guys have brought in their A game to start the season. They're competitive. They're running well. They're doing a lot better than what they were last year when they had all the distractions with the lawsuit stuff. They are kicking butt right now. And a fun fact I want to point out, Tyler Reddick has only led in 5 races this season. Take a guess what happened in those 5 races. He won them. The other races that he hadn't won, he didn't lead a single lap. So I guess, by coincidence, if Tyler Reddick leads a lap in a race, he's guaranteed to win? No, I mean, anything is possible on a race day, but you can't deny the fight and the effort that the 45 team put together yesterday. They weren't the best car, but they were consistent, and compared to how rough they were on pit road for a lot of races this year, aside from that one stop in stage 2, they had a good day yesterday on pit road, and they chose the right lane on that outside. Well, that was not by his choice. That was Hamlin's choice to take the bottom, and I'll get to that in a second. But Reddick on the top was able to benefit from that and was able to get by the 5 of Kyle Larson on the last lap to take victory. I mean, again, Reddick off to a great start. Michael Jordan is having the time of his life right now watching his man. Now, I know that Bubba Wallace was the first guy hired by this race team when they formed in 2021 to be the face. Well, Bubba is still kind of the big part of the team, and he's been good this season, but Tyler Reddick is their guy. And of course, now that he's got a new sponsor joining the team in Rockstar Energy, that's interesting. This 45 team, you can't deny, is the best team right now in NASCAR. They're just knocking it out of the park every way they can. So a big congratulations to Tyler Reddick and the 45 team yesterday. 5 wins to start the season. That's crazy. Number 2, Hamlin dominates, but chooses the wrong lane in the end. Denny Hamlin, without question yesterday, had the best car. As I mentioned, started on the front row next to his driver, Tyler Reddick. They challenged for the lead early on. As I mentioned, they made brief contact after lap number 1, challenging for the lead, but they had a great battle with each other. Then Hamlin was able to take the lead and rocket away from the rest of the pack. And even though at times he got into some lap traffic after we got midway through the first stage and slowed him down a little bit, he still was able to hold control of the lead and get the first stage win. Then stage number 2, he had a good stop, but didn't get quite the restart he would have wanted, as he and Reddick, as I mentioned, got ganged up by the Hendrick cars. But then a couple laps later, they were able to get by Chase Elliott and try to run down Kyle Larson, but Larson at that point was gone. And all Hamlin could do was settle for second place at the end of that stage. Then we get into the final stage. Hamlin gets control of the lead again and does a great job controlling pretty much the entire final stage until the closing laps of the race, because he was one of the first cars to pit on that cycle of green flag pit stops in the final stage versus Tyler Reddick, who came a couple laps later, and Reddick used that to his advantage to chase down the 11 car at the end, and I think he was just managing his tires because there were some concerns about tire wear yesterday with how these guys were setting the pressures as far as tire pressures, particularly with those left rears. But Denny Hamlin just was hanging on for dear life towards the end. Reddick was able to get by him with about 10 laps to go, and it looked like Hamlin was pretty much out of the game, but with Reddick just fighting his tires as well, and then briefly telling me on the radio saying, I may have run out of gas, and scraping the wall, Hamlin was able to get the lead back by, and it looked like it was Hamlin's race again until that caution for the 51 came out spinning, and that brought everyone to pit road. Hamlin came off pit road first with the 2-tire call, but on the restart, he chose the bottom lane, which in previous races you could see it's the lane to be on a restart, but considering the lane that Reddick was in with what happened, and you can sometimes get a good run on the top side off of turn 2 if you're with the guy. And then again, Denny Hamlin had a good restart that final run, but when the 5 car got a better restart behind and was able to make the pass on the inside after they crossed the start-finish line heading off into 1, I knew right then and there Denny Hamlin's race to win is over. And he got shuffled in mid-pack. He, again mentioned, came up the track briefly to Reddick, who got into Bell and sent Bell on the wall. And once Reddick got by Hamlin, I knew there it was no chance he had, even though he gave it one more effort through 1 and 2 to try to run the high side to get at least some sort of a run off of 2 with the 2 guys up front bound for the lead side by side. He could have maybe made something out of it, but he got up into the wall, grazing it, and had to come home with a 4th place result. I mean, he led 131 laps of the race yesterday, but he didn't get the win, and he comes up with a 4th place result. And you saw in his post-race interview, he was just upset. He was frustrated that he wasn't able to get the win. He was upset with Cody Ware, and of course, a lot of people can be pretty upset about Cody Ware, but what are you going to do, Denny? Like, if a guy spins out in front at the end of the race because he's still kind of battling for a position out there, he doesn't want to finish last out of all the cars, what are you going to do about it? Like, what are you going to do? And you can't control that, and he was also upset with himself with the choice that he made on that restart to be on the bottom, because he knew that Kyle Larson was going to make a move on the inside of him at some point, which it did happen, and pretty much took Hamlin out of the win. By the way, also a very viral moment happened as they were going to commercial break. They saw MJ, who is, of course, he and Denny Hamlin co-own the race team 2311 Racing. MJ came over happy, smiling. He kissed Hamlin on the back of his head and wrapped his arm around his neck, as they say, we did it, we got the win. I know you didn't win the race, I feel bad for you, but I'm happy our race team won, that we co-own. But Denny Hamlin the whole time was just absolutely upset. I mean, it's just like the heat of the moment where a guy had the race won, where he dominated all day, but at the end of the day, circumstances dictate the outcome, and it didn't fall in Hamlin's favor. And ultimately, a 4th place result at the end of the day. So, at one hand, somewhere in there, he's kind of happy that I think Reddick won the race because that's his driver and he pays him to race and win races. But at the same time, he's also in a race car for a different team trying to win as well. So, dominant day for Denny Hamlin, but circumstance at the end did not work in his favor. Number 3, runner-up for Larson. Kyle Larson was so close yesterday to breaking the winless streak that went back to last year's race at Kansas, albeit it was a couple of races later into the season. Kyle Larson, by far, yesterday had the best car out of the Chevrolet camp, because there are still a lot of these teams trying to work with the new Chevrolet body on this Camaro. But yesterday, Kyle Larson was the class of the field for Team Chevrolet, and he gave the Toyotas, at times yesterday when he was up front and could compete with them, a run for their money. He was really good in stage 1, got the lead in stage number 2, and he was able to hold control that entire stage. I'm thinking, maybe it's going to fall into Larson's favor. He was able to get the stage 2 win, get those 10 points, but then we get into the final stage, they had a slow stop, which dropped him a couple spots, and he was just stuck running 3 wide for the opening laps of the final stage, not able to do a whole lot until he cleared the traffic. It was kind of a little too late. And when we had those long runs, Hamlin and Reddick just stretched themselves away from the 5 car, and there wasn't anything Larson could do to run them down. Until, as mentioned, that last caution came out, it gave Larson one more chance at the Toyotas. And on that restart, he made the pass 3 wide into turn number 1, underneath of Hamlin and Reddick, and got control, and thinking, I'm going to run away with this thing. If everybody runs side by side behind me, I've got this thing in the bag. But that was not the case, as the 45 chased him down as they took the white flag, and he made the pass going into turn 1 to get in the round Kyle Larson, and then they raced side by side down the backstretch. Then Reddick finally cleared him in turn 3 and drove away with the victory, and Larson had to settle with a runner-up result. They are getting close to winning. You've seen now, last weekend at Bristol, led the most laps, finished 3rd. Yesterday, probably had one of the top 5 cars, led a lot of laps, got a 2nd place result. They're getting closer to winning a race. And when Larson finally breaks through and wins, more wins are going to start stacking up for that 5 team. Although they came up short yesterday, they were in the mix all day long, and you can't deny it. And as I mentioned, Hendrick Motorsports, some of their guys have got the body on this car, even though it's a work in progress, they're able to make the most out of it compared to some of these other teams that are still working on it right now, like the Aspire cars, or Richard Childress Racing cars, or Colleague, or anybody else driving a Chevrolet that is still trying to figure out this new body style car. The Hendrick cars, they've got it down pretty well because they're one of the best Chevrolet teams. Maybe, actually, they're the best Chevy team. And yesterday, Larson came so close to winning, just couldn't get it done. Number 4, 4 tires works for Briscoe. Chase Briscoe was a relatively quiet race yesterday for him in that number 19 team. And I thought, seeing how good the Toyotas qualified and how well they ran yesterday with Hamlin, Reddick, Bell, Bubba Wallace, and even Ty Gibbs, last week's winner, I thought Briscoe was going to be part of the mix as well, considering he also gets around Kansas pretty well, especially with the Toyota. But most of the race, they were around 8th to 12th place for the most part, just really couldn't seem to have that extra speed to keep up with his teammates and Toyota counterparts. They were just kind of fighting the handling, especially the longer the run went. It looked like Briscoe's car got loose and loose and loose. Most of the race, I saw him and Bubba Wallace have extreme battles for position inside the top 10. If it's slowing them down and allowed everybody else behind them with fresher rubber, or at least having more speed considering they're not side by side with a guy competing for position, allow him to chase down and pass him. It looked like Briscoe was going to settle the day yesterday in 11th place. Until that caution came out, they settled for 4 tires on that pit stop and they restarted in 11th. But he made up a lot of spots there towards the end. He was able to get up inside the top 5 as they took the white flag, and he got up to 3rd as they headed down the backstretch. And it looked like he was going to replicate what Chase Elliott did in the fall race last year. If you remember, Elliott took 4 tires that last stop, restarted 10th in overtime, and shot up all the way up to 5th on the final lap, and then to 1st at the checkered flag. Could have maybe happened to Chase Briscoe. If Larson and Reddick maybe stayed side by side through turn 3 and maybe one of them pushed up the track and gotten the other high, then maybe Briscoe could have had enough effort to run them down. But I just think they were too far ahead, and once Reddick finally got clear of Larson, wasn't really a whole lot Briscoe could do to try to chase them down. But he gave it a good performance. And after the tough start that this 19 team has had this year, the last couple of weeks, they're starting to get some momentum, they're finishing better, and they're now into the top 16 in points, and they can only get higher from here. I think they're going to continue to keep building up this momentum, still have some work to do, and again, as I mentioned last year, we all know that when Briscoe got adapted to the Joe Gibbs Racing team, it took some time, but by the midpoint of the season, he and the 19 team started clicking, winning races, and finishing constantly in the top 5 and leading laps. It's going to start happening soon, I guarantee that. Briscoe is still one of the top drivers in NASCAR, especially in Toyota. He's going to get some wins, and he's going to get better results going forward and continuing to build up. So, 4-tire gamble works for Briscoe to jump from a top 15 into the top 5 on the podium. And number 5, the racing at Kansas yesterday was okay. It wasn't the best, I continuously hype up this track because it's just so much fun. Though the restarts yesterday, what we had with the 4 restarts, the start of the race, and the 3 restarts that we had, there were good battles out there. You saw a lot of guys changing their lanes. You could move anywhere around this racetrack, as we've seen before. After a couple laps into a run, though, you would see a lot of these guys start to spread out and kind of managing their tires until they made their pit stop, and guys just fighting the handling, especially pushing off of turn 2 if the wind was blowing, which it was relatively yesterday, and a lot of tire management and a lot of guys adjusting with their tires yesterday as far as the pressure system, as far as what you want to do for low tire air in the left rear and managing your tires for the most part. But when we got into some long runs and then get spread out, it was a relatively stable race with guys just waiting for other guys in front of them to fall off. If you pitted early, you were going to gain a lot of spots, but you'd probably get affected by it in the long run unless you got a caution, perhaps. If there wasn't a lot of opportunities for cautions yesterday until, as mentioned, towards the end of the race, that forces into overtime and set up that last dash at the finish. For the most part, again, the racing yesterday, Kansas, was okay. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst, obviously. The next-gen car still puts on a good show with this. I think the fall time definitely is the best for this next-gen car when we see them going at it left and right, side by side. I mean, I know 2 years ago we had that insane finish where Kyle Larson beat Chris Buescher by 1/1000th of a second, and the whole race in general was really good. Granted, it was because we had a rain delay to start, and we had to start about 5 o'clock in the evening, but it was still a really, really fun race that time. And last year's spring race, like yesterday, I feel like was just stable, a good one, but not a great one. It's something that I think maybe to take into consideration, as we've talked about. We've added some horsepower to these cars on the short tracks and the road courses. Is it possibly time, after seeing kind of yesterday, could we possibly get more horsepower into these cars for 1.5 and 2 mile tracks going forward? That remains to be seen, and is something that I think NASCAR is going to think about. But in general, yesterday's racing was just decent, nothing spectacular until the overtime battle at the very end of the race. But other than that, just an average, decent Kansas race. Now we're off to some high bank super speedway racing at Talladega. It's a party where everybody goes there, and the drivers on the track running 3 and sometimes even 4 wide at 190 plus miles per hour are going to give it everything they've got. And just a real quick thing I want to make note about. NASCAR recently made a change to the Talladega race format. What do I mean by that? They changed the length of the stages for that. Stage 1 is going to be 98 laps, and the final 2 stages, stage 2 and the final stage, will each be 45 laps. Now, what is NASCAR trying to accomplish with this? They are trying to eliminate the fuel save mode under green that these guys do, because they're running half throttle, and we've seen this the last couple of times, especially at Daytona. These guys are running half throttle. They're not really making a whole lot. They're all staying 3 wide, not making a whole lot of crazy moves out there, stable and not really doing anything dangerous out there, which, you want the drivers to be safe, but you want them to race. And this change is going to hopefully eliminate the fuel save and make these guys make their pit stop. So that means a pit stop in midway through stage number 1, more than likely. I could get them to the end of the stage, and then stage 2 and 3, flat out, full speed. You're going to give it everything you've got, and I think this will work. Now, that just remains to be seen, because we got to see them on the track and see what the product is with the changes to the stage lights. But I think this is going to help the racing at Talladega, make these guys go at it, especially that final stage. More importantly, no more fuel save, because I think a lot of us are getting pretty tired of that. But we could be in for a photo finish next week. So who could come out on top next week at Talladega? To be honest, it's Talladega. I have no idea who's going to win there. So you got to tune in to find out. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and I hope you enjoyed watching yesterday's race. Subscribe, like, and congrats once again to Tyler Reich and the 45 team on their 5th win of 2026. Have a great week, everybody. Let's go racing!